Okay folks, it's time to talk about Skankfest, because this alleged comedy festival is not what it seems. Now if you've watched my story on Lewis, you'd know that Skankfest itself is a hoax that has never actually happened, and all the footage we've seen of this supposed festival is actually just chopped up footage of a DJ Khaled after party. But this year's different, with this alleged comedy festival actually taking place in New Orleans, and it's all been building up to this. You see, if you watched my episode on Big J, you'd know he's actually an evangelical Christian masquerading as a dirty comic. Well, I thought the story ended there, when in reality that was just the beginning. Using the Freedom of Information Act, I was able to acquire these tax documents that shows the property being used for Skankfest is owned by Lakewood Incorporated. And while that might not sound odd on the surface, Lakewood Inc. is owned by Joel Osteen, the American televangelist. And though some would say this overt snake would take money from anyone, something still seemed odd. Why here? And why now? Well, I cross-referenced the area with flood maps and found this property sits well below the waterline and is in fact a major evacuation area. And Skankfest has been scheduled here directly in the middle of hurricane season. What could this dastardly group be up to? Well, thankfully, the TB Nation has been steadily growing, and a church insider reached out to me and gave me a set of maps I had never heard of. And when laid on top of one another, these new maps directly mirror the flood zones. But these secret biblical maps were actually defining conversion zones. Believe it or not, American pastors can ordain certain parts of town as conversion areas. And if you happen to be caught in one of these conversion zones and doused with water, you become legally converted to Christianity. So the Legion of Skanks have been building a massive audience of sinners for over a decade, only to bring them to New Orleans and forcibly convert them in a mass baptism. But why? Well, according to Kurt Metzger, Lewis knew his lifetime of bad behavior meant he was never getting into heaven. So he struck up a deal with Big J to talk to the big man. So apparently Lewis has to convert at least 100,000 people to Christianity if he wants to make it into heaven. He also had to eat his own feces. And as for Dave, well, his plan is to fence it up until the very last second, and then cash in his forgiveness tokens just before dying. And there's plenty more strange things about Skankfest, like the fact that no Asians are allowed to attend, or how upon entry they force you to get a Skankfest tattoo that if read upside down appears to say Christ is King, but we'll have to save that for another time. Until then, Skankfest New Orleans, you're a total bitch. Okay everyone, if you're keeping up, we've been wandering in the Chinese wilderness for weeks, but we finally stumbled upon a village. Strangely, the village was entirely empty and it seemed as if everyone had just disappeared. With fires still cooking food and TVs playing in the background, it seemed as if everyone here had just been raptured. That's when I noticed. I walked into a small hut and found an iPad playing Kill Tony. It appeared we were too late. The sickness had spread. Whoever these people were, they were on Tony's side. So we marched off into the jungle knowing full well we were being watched. Well, if we have to fight, so be it. TB Nation, prepare for war with China.